Hey, what's going on? It's me, Shaun. So I want to make this video to state that something that I didn't state in another video, that insofar as trade embargoes are concerned, countries get really upset. The governments of China, Iran, Japan, uh, all countries get really upset when we enforce a trade embargo on them. And if if the tariffs we set tax them too much, say for instance on steel, on telecommunications devices like cell phones and computers and the CPU chips, um, oil, vegetables and fruit, stuff like that. What I also didn't say I'm hoarse, I'm sorry. What I also didn't say was that insofar as China is concerned, it stated that China came out with a statement of China will not eat bitter fruit insofar as trade agreements are concerned. They are number two under the US insofar as trading is concerned throughout the world, and they are a major player to deal with. What that statement meant, China will not eat sour fruit. I'm sorry. China will not eat sour fruit. What that means is that they will not take a deal that's less than what they believe is good for their country, for their people, for their government. That is really hard for us because um, President Trump has said that for many years, for decades, that China has overpriced us in a lot of our goods and services. Um, I also mentioned that China wants their particular car. They have several cars that they produce in China, and I'm so sorry I did not get the name of their leading car that they want to uh, export to the U.S. That's part of their trade agreement. I suspect. Now, like I keep saying in most of my videos, political videos that I project, China and the US has a bill that has not been presented to the US populace as yet. It was signed in 2015 and negotiated in 2015 by then President Barack Obama. It states that all residents, men, women, and children, every single resident, 100% of China will be coming to the US because of what's going on with their desert. The Gobi Desert is overflowing. The Gobi Desert is depleting its sand source in that particular part of the world in the Gobi Desert, and sand is has been seen for the last 10 years en masse in different parts of the Chinese region and cities and towns and farms outside of Gobi. So in a short percentage of time, because of the wind factor, there'll be new um, deserts in China, and the Chinese people will not be able to survive. Crops will not be able to survive. Stock and other things will not be able to, to survive because of the sand. So our trade agreement, insofar as the China bill is concerned, sorry, I have allergies, so um, I never thought that I would have allergies, but all of a sudden, the last 5 years. So, insofar as the trade agreement is concerned, China has the upper hand because of the wonderful and great Barack Obama, who also has a lot of other bills out there, but we won't talk about that. You have to look at my other videos for me to go into depth with that. But the China bill is really going to be a hard situation for America to fathom. You think that the wall and the Mexican relief effort is difficult for a great percentage of Americans here because of their racist outlook. Wait till 100% of China comes over to live, and we have room. America has room here. We have national parks that can be turned into living facilities. We can build within those national parks, Yellowstone National Park. I think there's one called Great Bear National Park. There are national parks throughout America. that's headed by the government, obviously national parks, right? So we have a plethora amount of space for people to live. It's only in the cities that are crowded to overcrowded, like New York, Los Angeles, parts of Florida and Texas. So we have places to live, and it's ungodly. It's ungodly to say a person or peoples cannot come into your country. Jesus Christ would not adhere to a lot of things that people say and project here in this country, insofar as people coming here to work for aid, to run away from terroristic activities in their own country. So anyway, um, the trade agreement is very heavy. Now, what I didn't also touch on is that a lot of countries, and it's not spoken about, have the MP3 bomb, the electromagnetic pulse bomb. I also have spoken about this. Russia has it and constantly threatens Trump with it. Putin does, um, which is why President Trump uh, almost seems like he is the brother of Vladimir Putin, because Putin really uses that MP3, I'm sorry, EMP3 bomb. I keep messing that up. EMP3 bomb. And he uses that, Putin does, against as leverage against the United States and President Trump. Now, China has the same thing. She has not threatened uh, the United States insofar as that is concerned. But if it comes to be that President Trump decides to continue to make a heavy embargo against China, and we have not as yet, um, but as he has said, he believes that China for decades has heavily taxed the U.S. insofar as our trade of fruit, vegetable. I just found out the other day, uh, National Forest, I believe the name is, or National Wood, where we give tons and tons of our lumber, our trees, our wood to China. Who knew that? I didn't. Maybe I should have known, right? Um, for their building. Now, if we it's so bizarre. If we have people coming here to live en masse from South America in the very near future, China, why can't we keep our own wood that we mass produce and build buildings instead of taxing instead of taxing steel and aluminum and other types of metal um, heavily from China? Uh, we could say we don't need as much steel from China. We take only 50% or less of steel, because what do we make with steel? Our cars seem like they're made out of aluminum. That could be a great possibility. But our buildings, now we could go back to building wood framed buildings, and we can continue to um, destroy buildings that are old, that are coming down, and refurbish that steel and brick and build new buildings. We could do that. Uh, so when you're in the 21st century and you're heading towards new world order, new concepts, a younger mind thought has to come forth and start making policies. That old 1930s, 1940s, 1950s outlook, where America is the end all to trade and embargoes and to capitalistic ideas and procedures, doesn't fly anymore because of the atomic age. We thought we were uh, the leader in atomics, but look, even India has the atomic bomb. Russia has an EMP3. I did not make it. EMP, electromagnetic pulse bomb. It's the last time I'm going to say that. Uh, so there's new technologies out there. People feel and governments feel that they have the right to fair trade for their people, and it's really an arrogance in actuality, because people can get along without uh, a plethora amount of taxes put on them and projected for goods and services. We, in all honesty, can produce the soybean ourselves, which is what we get from China, and we use that to cultivate our soil, our farming soil. Um, I don't understand why we can't produce our own soy. We basically have the same type of temperatures as China has. It's not like we're near the equator, or it's not like China is near the equator where certain fruits and vegetables will only grow there. You know, um, for example, like the pineapple grows in hot places like Hawaii and Aloha Hawaii and South America and such. Um, so we could, in our summer months, produce the soy, reintroduce that to our ground, to our soil, and farmers would not have such a difficulty in raising plant like corn, wheat, um, and other fruits and vegetables. Um, so China threatens us with the electro pulse, magnetic pulse bomb, and that's what they will soon come to project to us if we continue our stoppage on trade and not agree with their trade agreement. Now, I want to move on to something else because I can get really bogged down in situations because I have so much passion for a lot of things that's going on. I should really run for president, but I would run on the Republican ticket. But that's just me. Um, let's speaking of politics. Let me say that a lot of the runners, the Democratic runners out there, obviously have no legs to stand up. A great percent. Booker has no chance. Sorry. Uh, I think that New York's Mayor de Blasio, the way he ran and has run New York City uh, since his election is horrific. I was trying for a lesser word, but horrific. When we had our snowstorm last year, 2018, it was the most detrimental thing that I've ever seen. 6.5 inches or a little bit more in our outer areas uh, seized the city. We had a major uh, crash on the George Washington Bridge, which has never happened in the history of the George Washington Bridge. Never, ever, ever. And we had trees falling down, saplings. Our school kids were kind of, what was the word for it? Lost, for lack of a better word, in our school systems. They couldn't go home. They were stranded on our on school buses without any knowledge from to the parents as to where their children were. No GPS on school buses. This is the 21st century again. You don't have GPS on school buses. You don't have navigations on school buses. You have them on every car that comes out and every SUV that comes out. You don't have them on school buses, which is bizarre that they didn't think about that first, because insofar as technology is concerned, it usually comes very slowly. It usually is tested first, first of all, in the Midwest. So it would be tested in the Midwest with buses, and then it would come to cities like New York and Texas and Florida and California. So uh, the first acknowledgement I could possibly say, insofar as navigation, should have been on school buses. Then it should have been on regular buses. Then it should have gone to the car industry. We still don't have that. It's being implemented now as we speak, but children should not have been stranded on school buses because of 6.5 inches of snow on the ground, because Mayor de Blasio didn't think it was going to be a rigorous snowstorm and did not um, have the snowplows put out. Now we have a plethora amount of salt in our resources, but we just didn't have the plows out, which crippled the city. So that's infrastructure, and I think just because of that reason, Mayor de Blasio would make a horrific president. There's a video on that also. Um, so going on to uh, Mayor of South Bend, Indiana, Pete Buttigieg, I think that he would make a great president. However, there are a few things that he hasn't dealt with. First of all, he's a Rhodes Scholar, fantastic. We've never had a president that had that much intelligence to graduate from Rhodes University. I think it's wonderful. I think anybody with brain power to matriculate at Rhodes and graduate from Rhodes University and have that type of mental prowess is needed in this 21st century because we have issues about um, people's international politics. How do we deal with different countries on the 21st century? How do we deal with people insofar as humanistic qualities are concerned? How do we deal with uh, other governments? Uh, how do we go about refurbishing uh, international friends that we have and putting them on a new plateau like France and England and Germany, Sweden and Norway? How do we do that? How do we work now with third world countries like African countries, India, which is doing great leaps and bounds with their technology now? How do we do all of that? It's not even touched upon by our president, Trump. So I think Buttigieg, just because of his mental prowess, would be an asset to America, and definitely for years to come, and definitely would be a great asset in of our history. Uh, I think that Buttigieg would bring the American government number one again in the world. But and he's a soldier. He's an ex-soldier who was in Afghanistan. So he has a seat, a history, an experience in two parts of life and history. He has, coming from Indiana, this Midwestern type of outlook on things, which is always happy-go-lucky and I said that happy-go-lucky and a great outlook on um, things, places, and ideas. And he's seen the other side. He's seen the underbelly of war. And you know how war can be very detrimental, gritty, things that you can't talk about, horrific events of people being blown away, our own soldiers being blown apart, coming back to the country and not having any medical resources. We send away young men and women to war, and they come back severely disabled with missing limbs, legs and arms, and the like, and mental difficulties because of what they've been through and what they've seen and experienced. Yet we have no medical resources for them. They basically have to come out of pocket either 50 to 75 to 100% for medical assistance. I think that Pete Buttigieg would layway that and do a lot better than other presidents have done in the past. No matter how much you like them, a lot of what goes on insofar as our ex-military has been ignored. So Pete Buttigieg, mental prowess, uh, military prowess. Sorry for that. And but being a Rhodes Scholar, he has not dealt with one thing, his homosexuality. He has not stated to the American populace, which can be, Americans can be very virulently racist and present, difficult with people that they don't understand, people that they adversely don't like. He has not touched on that at all. And you know, this country is not run by the president. It's run by the cabal. It's run by the Bilderberg and the De Bilderberg group, who used to be the De Bilderberg family, but they're a conglomerate, and they basically run all governments around the world. They are the master puppeteers. The Bilderberg group is, insofar as everything is concerned. Um, I'm going to say this. Uh, when you see a person who's successful, whether it's in the media uh, or in government, adversely in show business, in sports, they adhere to um, the cabal, which also is the master puppeteer of other groups like the Jesuits, the Freemasons, uh, 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 the Mormons, the Skull and Crossbones, all these groups, sub-political groups that hide in the shadow and call the shots uh, across governments. Um, they are the leaders of that. Head players are also the royal families of Britain and Sweden and Norway and Spain. Anywhere where you have a monarchy, whether it's a monarchy that runs by itself, like the Saudi Arabians, or whether it's in co-running, like in Britain, where you have a government side and you have the royal family, but the royal family really doesn't project laws and rules anymore, but they are secretly over the government via the cabal, via the De Bilderberg group. What I'm trying to get to is Oprah Winfrey is a major player in the cabal, and people don't know that. How do you think she went from a radio pronounceator? Sorry, how do you think that she went from a radio pronounceator to a television mogul in those amount of years? What was it, 13 years, where she beat out people like Donahue in his own state, his own city of Chicago, and other heavyweights that were out there to be number one out of Chicago, uh, never really having to come to New York. She ran Donahue, who was a heavyweight from Chicago, to New York and then off the air. So Oprah Winfrey, if she ran for president, would win, hands down. She doesn't want to come into play with Donald Trump because Donald Trump is like a fist that goes way back and then strikes you. What do I mean by that? He digs with his plethora of people. He digs for bad things um, that you've done or mistakes that you've made in business, and then hits you with it. A lot of those people are hidden from the reality to the populace. Um, Bill Cosby was one of those people where he made vast, heavyweight mistakes against women. And Donald Trump used that. Now, why would Donald Trump come against Bill Cosby? Because there was a time where the channel NBC was up for sale. I think it was for $43 billion. Could I be right with that number? $43 million. I forget the exact sum. I'm so sorry. I'm going to go with $43 million. And Bill Cosby had a great percentage of that money. He didn't have 43, but I think he had something like 38. And he put up his financial prowess to buy NBC. Because of the racism in this country, Donald Trump says, no, I'm not going to have a black man buy the most important stock and the most important media giant that there is in this country, NBC. You know, there are three: NBC, ABC, and CBS. And he came and he put in his financial prowess against Bill Cosby. So there was a financial uh, scuffle or argument, and you know, Bill Cosby would not step down. He continued to fight to own NBC. So Trump went back decades, decades into Bill Cosby's life and saw that he abused women because that's what he did. Um, period. Period. Um, and he used that against him. Donald Trump has also done the same thing insofar as real estate is concerned. Um, so this is how Donald Trump wins uh, the election for president and wins in business and all things that he wants to come out number one as he goes way back, looks into one's history, digs and digs and digs into financial records and finds a small percentage of things that people have done wrong, mistakes that they've made, and it comes forth with it. What am I saying to this? I'm saying that Oprah Winfrey is afraid to um, to come forth and run for president. When she lost $8 million um, with Weight Watchers, that was Donald Trump coming and saying whatever she was doing in the background, I don't know what it was, but whatever she was doing in the background that irked Trump, I believe that was a show to say, stop what you're doing. You're not going to go any further, and you're digging uh, or trying to be president in 2020. And this is what I'll continue to do to you financially if you continue to want to run for president, because the people love uh, Oprah Winfrey just like the world loved Lady Diana. So when you're coming up against Trump, and I'm talking about now Buttigieg will not win because he has not put his mental prowess into, and there's time, but he should come out forthright with it because there's so many people uh, that despise um, what he is insofar as his sexuality is concerned, him being a homosexual man, and he's legally married to another man. So the powers that be, the cabal, will not stand for that. They like that he's vastly intelligent, but that's something that he will he will have to explain and put forth a lot of hours of mental uh, prowess to get the American people to say and see that what he thinks that homosexuality is okay. If Hillary Clinton had gone in and been president, a lot of things would be vastly different. But the reason why she didn't win is because the cabal saw that she was a loose cannon and um, and would not adhere to her being president because she would have gone in, not listened to the cabal. And again, the cabal is the 12 executive offices above the president that tells the president what to do. It happens in every country, and it happens definitely in America. You do not have an American president that has ever said or projected policies where it was not brought down from those 12 offices. I keep telling you that. So Hillary Clinton would not have adhered to the 12 offices. A lot of things would have gone down politically where the cabal would not have adhered to. And Pete Buttigieg will not win the presidency in 2020. Mayor de Blasio will probably come in third. Uh, I think that number two will be um, Biden. Joe Biden, but Joe Biden is really seen as kind of a slick character now because of his touching of women. I think he'll get into the presidency as like an innocent guy, and he's not innocent. Who's innocent in their 60s, right? But as like an innocent guy, happy guy, but he'll go in and he'll be the closest thing to dictatorship because he's slick. He comes off as suave and debonair when in actuality, I think he's a slick master. Um, so he'll be number two. And Michelle Obama, who will come in late in the races, but she is a strong contender. And she has not thrown her hat in the ring as yet. She is an extremely strong contender for president of the United States if Oprah Winfrey doesn't run. Um, but the Obama family have already come in contact virulently with Trump uh, when they were leaving the White House, insofar as everything is concerned, political matters, personal matters. Um, so they are versed with the Trump administration. So I think that Michelle Obama will be a strong contender if she throws her hat in the ring, which will be late in 2019, but she will win. And you know that there are already, as I've told you, several bills that will come to fruition that her husband, Barack Obama, made in 2015. There's the Jade Helm uh, issue. There is the currency bill where we will go off the dollar bill standard, the gold standard, and come into the RFID chip, the radio frequency identification chip. So that's two. And the China bill, where we started out. So I want to thank everybody for their time and patience. There are a lot of issues that I continue to hit upon because you have to. It's the 21st century. We are going to be coming off the 21st century kind of plateau and getting on to the New World Order, which was figured out by uh, the senior President Bush way back when, probably in 1992. So that's going to be in America's history, and it's going to be a bumpy ride. So put on your seat belts and let's live. Let's be happy. One more thing. I know we're getting to a half hour of me talking, but I want to say, insofar as marijuana is concerned, now a lot of people across the country, especially in New York, love that marijuana will be legalized. Here is the thing: the government wants every citizen across the country to be comfortably numb, because if you're high, you will not care about what policies come to fruition in the United States. You will not care to stand up for your own personal rights when the government closes down and people are out of work and people start to protest because they can't pay their mortgages, their car bills, their food, their grocery bills. You will be comfortably numb when you won't be able to go to church and to project your religious prowess. You will be comfortably numb when police and military, uh, the militia, comes into your house and takes you away and puts you into FEMA camps. You will be comfortably numb when they tell you in FEMA camps you'll have all the marijuana that you want and all the food. You won't care.